Remove these cars immediately, or I'll take this house from you. Karen's shrill voice shattered the morning calm. She stood in front of my house, waving her neon pink ruler with fingers trembling from rage. Her face wore a ruthless smile of triumph, certain she'd already won the war. You've broken HOA rules for the last time, Mr. Thompson. If you can't follow the rules, you don't belong here. I could feel the whole neighborhood watching us silently from behind their curtains. My neighbors, who had quietly endured Karen's oppressive rules for years, were now witnessing the drama unfolding right outside my front door. Through Karen's loud accusations, I caught sight of 80-year-old Mrs. Rodriguez cautiously peeking through her window. Just last week, the poor woman had received a $200 fine for having flowers deemed too colorful for our neighborhood standards. I took a deep breath, my heartbeat accelerating. My wife's anxious gaze burned into my back. I had to stay calm, because Karen didn't yet know my secret. "Karen, please calm down," I said in a controlled voice. "This is my home, and these are my cars. I haven't violated any HOA rules." Karen smirked dismissively, shaking her head. "I'm sorry, but 3 cars are unacceptable. Every household here can only have 2 cars, and they must be parked in the garage. It's people like you who are lowering the standards of our community." Her words, especially people like you, stung deeply. Anger rose within me, but I kept it in check. Karen had no idea that I'd secretly spent the past 5 years buying up the majority of homes in our neighborhood. Now, I was the majority stakeholder in our HOA. 5 years earlier, my father had been forced out of his dream home due to relentless pressure from Karen and her fellow HOA board members. Back then, I'd promised myself I'd never allow something like that to happen again. Ever since, I'd quietly planned my strategy. I'd attended HOA meetings via proxies, carefully documenting every unjust decision Karen made. Karen pulled out her cell phone and started taking pictures of my driveway, specifically targeting my wife's SUV. Calmly but firmly, I stepped forward. "This is harassment, Karen. It's time for it to stop," I stated clearly. She lowered her phone angrily, glaring at me. "You don't get to tell me how to do my job, Mr. Thompson. There will be an HOA meeting tonight at 7 p.m., where we'll decide your fate." Karen spun around, storming away with her heels clicking angrily against the pavement. Watching her leave, I fought to suppress my excitement. She had no idea about the surprise waiting for her and the HOA board tonight. My wife approached me nervously. "What are we going to do now?" "Get ready," I replied with a confident smile. "Karen has just set the stage for her own downfall. She just doesn't realize it yet." I hurried inside, heading straight to my office desk. The documents I'd secretly gathered over the past 5 years, property deeds, HOA violation records, were spread out before me. In just a few hours, I'd exposed the truth about Karen's abuse of power and the HOA board's unfair tactics. My phone rang. It was my neighbor Sarah Jenkins, her voice trembling. "James, Karen just sent us a violation notice, claiming our kids' toys are causing visual pollution. This has gone too far." Sarah's shaking voice reminded me I had to act quickly. "Stay calm, Sarah," I reassured her. "Make sure you're at tonight's HOA meeting and spread the word. Tonight, everyone learns the truth." After ending the call, I quickly gathered up the documents on my desk. Dialing my lawyer, John, I spoke only one sentence. "John, are the documents ready? Tonight, we end Karen's reign." I could hear John's smile through his voice. "Everything's ready. You now hold the majority stake in the HOA. Tonight, we finish this." Hearing those words ignited a fire within me. Glancing at my watch, I saw only a few hours remained until the HOA meeting. Looking outside, I noticed Karen across the street, still busy handing out violation notices to other neighbors. I whispered to myself quietly, "Just wait, Karen. Tonight, all your games come to an end." As the meeting drew near, residents began arriving at the community hall. Inside me surged excitement, anger, and the strength that years of patient planning had built. Karen's biggest mistake wasn't just targeting me. It was forgetting all the people she'd oppressed for years. Now, she wasn't facing one man alone. The entire neighborhood had risen up, ready to learn the truth. Karen would finally face the power of those she'd bullied. Tonight, the fate of our neighborhood would be decided. The battle had begun. The community hall was buzzing with anticipation. Neighbors were huddled in groups, whispering nervously, exchanging worried glances. Karen sat proudly at the head table, her meticulously styled hair and designer clothes making her look untouchable. A queen presiding over subjects she thought she controlled completely. Beside her were the other HOA board members, each chosen personally by Karen, loyal only to her and the power she'd given them. I calmly walked toward my seat, feeling every pair of eyes in the room tracking my steps. Some people nodded respectfully, others avoided eye contact, fearing retaliation from Karen. My heart beat faster with every step, knowing tonight would alter all our lives forever. "All right, everyone, let's get started," Karen announced, tapping her bright pink gavel forcefully. Her voice echoed sharply, silencing the murmurs. She eyed me coldly, her smile venomous. "We have a serious matter to discuss tonight. Certain homeowners believe they're above our rules." The room fell silent. I could feel Sarah Jenkins tense up beside me, visibly uncomfortable. I gently squeezed her shoulder, offering reassurance. She nodded slightly, her eyes grateful. Karen clicked open her laptop, connecting to the projector. The screen lit up, revealing pictures of my driveway filled with our family cars. Her exaggerated photos made our 3 ordinary vehicles look like an absurd parking lot. "As you can see," Karen began dramatically, pointing with a laser pointer, "Mr. Thompson consistently violates HOA rules by parking multiple vehicles outside. This selfish disregard lowers our neighborhood's value and compromises our image." I glanced at my wife Sarah, who took a deep breath to steady herself. Our daughter Emily clenched her fists, visibly upset. Karen continued confidently. "I propose we immediately implement strict penalties. Fines, removal of voting rights, and even eviction if necessary." She paused dramatically. After all, rules must be followed. A hush spread through the room. No one dared speak against Karen's proposal. That's when I calmly stood up, holding the thick file I'd prepared. "Madam President, I'd like to address the board." Karen glared at me, clearly annoyed. "You will speak only when recognized, Mr. Thompson." I smiled coolly, undisturbed. According to our HOA bylaws, Section 8.2, any homeowner has the right to present evidence in their defense. Her eyes narrowed. Reluctantly, she motioned with her hand. "Fine. Go ahead, James." "Thank you," I said, stepping forward confidently. "First, I'd like to clarify a misconception. Our family has 3 registered vehicles, perfectly allowed under city regulations. The HOA's 2-car limit is not only unfair but selectively enforced." Karen scoffed loudly. "We enforce rules equally." "Really?" I asked, turning to the audience. "Karen, how many cars do you have?" She hesitated, her cheeks reddening. 2 cars, obviously." I clicked to the next slide, revealing photos I'd discreetly taken the previous day. Karen's driveway clearly displayed 3 vehicles, including her son's bright red sports car parked illegally on the curb. Gasps filled the room. People whispered excitedly, many pointing toward Karen accusingly. Karen stood up furiously. "You have no right! This is harassment!" I calmly held up my hand, quieting the room again. "Let's discuss harassment, shall we?" I clicked another slide. It showed time-stamped security footage of Karen standing outside our home at 3 a.m., carefully measuring our lawn with a ruler. The silence was deafening. I continued steadily. "This is just one example. Karen's harassment has affected many of us here. Mrs. Rodriguez was fined $200 for vibrant flowers. Mr. Chen, our neighborhood science teacher, received violation notices for parking slightly outside his driveway line after a snowstorm." Heads nodded vigorously across the room. Sarah Jenkins raised her voice. "You fined us $500 for having children's toys visible in our backyard." "Those toys violated the aesthetics rules," Karen snapped defensively. "Yet," I interjected smoothly, clicking another slide, "your close friend Susan has an electric purple mailbox clearly against regulations, but never received a single warning." "Why?" Whispers grew louder. Karen's eyes darted nervously around the room. She scrambled for control. This meeting is about your violation, James, not mine. No, I countered firmly, raising my voice confidently. Tonight, we address years of selective enforcement, unfair fines, and blatant corruption within our HOA. I carefully placed a thick stack of property deeds on the table before me. The sound echoed sharply in the room, drawing everyone's attention. There's something else you should know. Through my company, Sunrise Properties, I have quietly acquired 67% of homes in our neighborhood. Karen froze, her face pale as realization hit her. Her power was slipping away. Impossible, she muttered weakly. I smiled calmly. Not impossible, careful planning. As majority owner, I propose immediate dissolution of the current HOA board, followed by new elections. The audience erupted into applause, cheering and shouting approval. People who had silently endured Karen's oppression now openly voiced their support. Karen slammed her gavel repeatedly, shouting for order, but nobody listened. "You're finished, Karen," shouted Sarah Jenkins triumphantly, tears of relief and joy streaming down her face. Karen's voice cracked, desperation taking over. "This isn't over. I built this neighborhood." "You ruled it through fear," shouted Mrs. Rodriguez courageously, rising to her feet despite her frail age. "You fined us for trivial things to finance your own luxuries." "I've documented everything," I said calmly. "The missing $50,000 from the pool renovation budget, expensive vacations funded by HOA fees. You're responsible for all of it." Neighbors gasped in shock, outraged by this new revelation. Some began calling out angrily, demanding answers. Karen staggered backward, gripping the table edge for support. I turned to the remaining board members, who sat pale and silent. "I urge you to resign voluntarily now, to avoid further disgrace." Slowly, one by one, the board members stood, faces red with shame, quietly leaving their seats. Karen, now alone, stared at me in disbelief. "You'll regret this, Thompson," she hissed furiously. "No, Karen," I replied steadily, meeting her gaze directly. "The only regret is that this neighborhood suffered under your tyranny for so long." As Karen stormed out of the community hall, defeated and humiliated, the crowd erupted in celebration. Tears of relief and joy flowed freely, neighbors embracing each other warmly. Sarah hugged me tightly, smiling gratefully. "You did it," she whispered proudly. "We finally won." I looked around, seeing genuine happiness and relief on my neighbors' faces for the first time in years. But I knew this wasn't the end. Karen would undoubtedly try fighting back with her powerful connections. Yet, tonight, we'd taken a critical first step toward reclaiming our community. My phone buzzed softly, a message from my lawyer. "Karen's lawyers have already contacted us. She intends to sue. Be ready." I smiled calmly, feeling stronger than ever. Karen had no idea how prepared I was for her next move. I whispered softly to myself, "Let her try." The morning after the dramatic HOA meeting, my phone exploded with notifications. Voicemail after voicemail, text after text. Neighbors reaching out with heartfelt thanks, but also messages filled with warnings. Karen wasn't finished yet. She'd already unleashed her lawyers, mobilizing her connections at City Hall to fight back. I sipped my coffee, scrolling through the emails when I heard Sarah gasp from the living room. "James, come quickly!" she called, urgency in her voice. Rushing into the room, I saw her pointing at the TV screen. Karen stood outside City Hall, a team of lawyers at her side, microphones thrust in front of her by eager reporters. "This neighborhood is under siege by one man's greed," Karen announced dramatically. "James Thompson secretly purchased homes through questionable companies, manipulating property values. He's destroying our community." The reporters scribbled notes furiously. Karen wiped away an imaginary tear, masterfully playing the victim. "All I ever wanted was to keep our neighborhood safe and orderly. Now, James wants chaos." My blood boiled at her lies. Sarah grabbed my arm, sensing my anger. "We have to respond," she urged. "She's twisting everything." "She's baiting me into reacting emotionally," I replied calmly, taking a deep breath. "But she underestimated us once before. She'll do it again." An email notification popped up on my phone. It was from the city council. My heart skipped a beat as I read the words. Immediate city council meeting requested by Karen Mitchell regarding neighborhood integrity concerns. I knew instantly Karen's strategy. Use her political connections to label my investments unethical, turning public opinion against me. Within an hour, my lawyer, Mark Evans, arrived at our home. Mark was a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer, accustomed to high-stakes property battles. He laid stacks of documents across my kitchen table, each labeled meticulously. Karen's pushing hard, Mark explained seriously. She's filed for an emergency injunction to block your voting rights in the HOA until the court investigates your company's acquisitions. On what grounds? Sarah asked anxiously. Mark sighed heavily. She's claiming conflict of interest, arguing you intentionally destabilized the neighborhood to profit from lower property values. That's absurd, I shot back. Property values increased after I started buying properties and made improvements. Karen knows that, Mark admitted calmly. But the courts don't. Not yet. She's gambling on the confusion this creates, buying herself time to regain control. That afternoon, I headed to City Hall for the emergency council meeting. My heart pounded as I entered the crowded room. Karen sat prominently, flanked by her powerful allies, politicians, influential businessmen, even local media personalities she'd personally invited. As soon as I entered, camera flashes erupted around me. Questions flew through the air. Mr. Thompson, did you secretly try to destabilize your neighborhood? Are you manipulating property values for personal gain? I ignored the chaos, calmly walking toward the podium where I'd be allowed to speak. Councilwoman Regina Brooks, known to be friendly with Karen, called the meeting to order. Karen spoke first, her voice trembling dramatically. Our beloved neighborhood faces an unprecedented threat. Mr. Thompson purchased homes secretly, pushing longtime residents out by creating chaos through constant conflict. He forced good, hard-working families to flee their homes. A murmur filled the room. Karen had twisted reality expertly, painting me as a ruthless predator. When it was finally my turn, I stepped forward calmly, holding nothing but documented truth. Council members, community residents, Karen Mitchell has made serious accusations today. Let me respond clearly. I purchase properties legally, fairly, and openly. Then why hide behind LLCs? Karen interrupted loudly. I turned, addressing her directly but calmly. My LLCs protected homeowners selling under pressure from your unfair fines and threats. Families came to me privately, desperate to escape your abusive rule. Whispers rippled through the audience. Karen faltered momentarily, anger flickering behind her carefully composed face. I continued steadily. Let's discuss who truly harmed this community. I clicked the projector, displaying documented fines. Elderly Mrs. Johnson fined for late snow removal during a hospital stay, Mr. Chen penalized for minor driveway infractions. All these selective enforcements targeted innocent neighbors who challenged Karen's absolute authority. You have no proof, Karen snapped desperately. Oh, I do, I responded quietly, producing copies of Karen's internal HOA emails from my folder, each highlighting her intentional targeting of certain residents. The council looked visibly stunned, especially Councilwoman Brooks, who shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I looked directly at her. Councilwoman, do you recognize these emails? They indicate Karen consulted your office regularly about these targeted enforcements. Brooks quickly stammered. Those were private discussions, misinterpreted. I see, I replied evenly. Yet your office approved permits instantly for Karen's friends, while others waited months or faced endless rejections. Interesting. The room erupted. Karen leapt to her feet, shouting, "This is slander!" I raised my voice calmly. All these records are available for independent review. Unlike Karen's accusations, I rely solely on facts. Council President Harold Watts, an older gentleman respected across party lines, finally spoke firmly. Clearly, there's more here than initially presented. Given the severity, I propose a neutral investigation into all parties involved. Karen paled visibly, understanding she'd lost control of the narrative. After the meeting adjourned, reporters swarmed again. This time, their questions were balanced. Karen retreated swiftly, her team whisking her away from cameras. Mark approached, smiling slightly. You handled that perfectly. Karen expected emotional outbursts she could exploit. You didn't give her the satisfaction. I nodded wearily. But this isn't over yet. No, he agreed seriously. Karen will escalate further. She's wounded but still dangerous. My phone buzzed suddenly, a text from my assistant. Emergency. Someone broke into your property management office downtown. My blood ran cold. Karen's desperation had taken a darker turn. I immediately left City Hall, heart racing. Arriving at my downtown office, police cars blocked the entrance. Broken glass littered the pavement. An officer approached cautiously. Mr. Thompson? Yes, I replied tensely. Looks like vandalism. Files stolen, computers smashed, he explained grimly. I clenched my fists, anger boiling beneath controlled calm. Karen wanted war. Now she'd officially declared it. Sarah touched my shoulder gently. James, what was taken? I exhaled slowly, calculating. Financial records, client lists, proof of my property transactions. They're trying to erase evidence, Mark realized sharply. Exactly, I replied bitterly. But Karen made another mistake. My critical files were backed up securely elsewhere. This vandalism just exposed her desperation. Sarah smiled determinedly. Then we fight smarter. Let's reveal the true Karen Mitchell to everyone. I nodded slowly, new resolve forming. You're right. We'll release everything publicly. Emails, texts, financial records. Let the truth decide. In her blind pursuit of revenge, Karen underestimated me again. Now it was my turn. Karen had exposed her vulnerabilities clearly tonight. By the time I finished, she'd regret ever targeting my family. Tomorrow, we'd launch the counterattack she'd never see coming, one powerful enough to end her rule forever. After the vandalism incident, I knew Karen had crossed every line imaginable. My phone buzzed non-stop. Neighbors expressed shock, concern, and most importantly, solidarity. Karen's desperate attempt to intimidate me had backfired spectacularly. People who'd stayed silent now felt compelled to speak up. That evening, we gathered in my living room. My lawyer, Mark Evans, my wife Sarah, and a group of trusted neighbors, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Chen, Sarah Jenkins, and several others who'd suffered Karen's wrath. We spent hours compiling evidence, sharing stories, and preparing to expose Karen once and for all. Mr. Chen's voice trembled with determination. James, I've seen this before. When someone abuses their power unchecked, people suffer silently until someone stands up. You've given us courage. Karen tried to frighten us, Mrs. Johnson added gently, her voice steady. But she's the one who's scared now. She underestimated our community. I nodded, deeply touched. We'll present everything at tomorrow's special HOA meeting. Emails, financial records, testimonies. It's time Karen faces the community she's mistreated. Mark placed folders across my coffee table, filled with irrefutable proof. Documents Karen foolishly believed destroyed in the office vandalism. Unbeknownst to her, everything was backed up digitally, safe and intact. The next day, our neighborhood clubhouse overflowed with people, an unprecedented turnout. Karen sat stiffly at the front table, her lawyer whispering urgently in her ear. Cameras rolled quietly in the background, capturing every moment. The tension was palpable. As the meeting began, Karen tried to maintain control. We're here because of irresponsible actions by one homeowner who's threatened our community's stability. Indeed, I said calmly, standing up. But that homeowner isn't me. Karen, you owe our neighbors transparency. So let's be completely transparent today. I began displaying records on the projector, each showing Karen's manipulation of HOA finances, selective enforcement, and personal vendettas. When I revealed Karen's secret bank transactions, $80,000 transferred directly from HOA funds into her personal accounts, the room erupted. You stole from us? Sarah Jenkins shouted angrily. Karen tried to dismiss it, voice shaking. Those were administrative reimbursements, approved by the board. I clicked to another slide. Emails explicitly detailing Karen pressuring board members into compliance. The board you controlled completely, I added sharply. You personally benefited while fining innocent residents into debt. The crowd's anger intensified. Karen's lawyer looked visibly uncomfortable, clearly unaware of her client's full misdeeds. Then came my final reveal: the footage of Karen vandalizing my office. She'd foolishly overlooked hidden surveillance cameras across the street, clearly capturing her directing two masked figures to smash windows and steal files. Gasps filled the room. Karen's face drained of color. That's not true," she stammered. I remained calm but firm. "Police already arrested the vandals. Both admitted you personally hired them. You've taken this beyond civil dispute into criminal territory." Karen jumped up, panic setting in. "This meeting is over," she shouted frantically. Mr. Chen stood defiantly. "You don't control this community anymore, Karen." Voices rose, demanding her resignation immediately. Realizing she'd lost all support, Karen fled from the clubhouse, reporters and cameras following closely behind. Within days, authorities officially charged Karen with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit vandalism. She resigned from the HOA in disgrace, sold her home hastily, and left town. Her rule of fear and favoritism had ended forever. We elected a new HOA board, comprised entirely of trusted neighbors. Mrs. Johnson oversaw community wellness programs, Mr. Chen handled fair enforcement of sensible rules, Sarah Jenkins managed communications transparently. We rewrote the HOA bylaws: fair, transparent, and reasonable. My family finally parked all 3 cars openly without worry. Our home, once again, our sanctuary. Sarah organized a neighborhood barbecue celebrating our newfound unity. Kids laughed in driveways, elderly neighbors exchanged gardening tips openly, and families enjoyed genuine friendships, finally free from intimidation. Weeks later, a TV news crew visited our community, eager to share how we'd defeated an abusive HOA president. Neighbors shared stories of healing, pride, and empowerment. I saw a reporter interviewing Mrs. Johnson, smiling proudly. "We stood up together," she told them. "No more fear. Now we have each other." That evening, I sat quietly on my porch with Sarah, reflecting deeply. This started because Karen targeted our family over something as trivial as parking cars, I mused softly. I never imagined it'd grow into something so significant. Sarah squeezed my hand reassuringly. "You gave the entire neighborhood courage, James. Without your bravery, Karen would still control everything." I smiled warmly, watching neighbors walk by, waving friendly greetings, genuine happy smiles without fear. Dad always said the best revenge wasn't hurting others, it was proving you could succeed without stooping to their level. Sarah leaned against me gently. "Your father would be incredibly proud today." I glanced upward quietly. "I know he is." Months passed. Our neighborhood flourished in newfound peace, property values rose steadily, and families actively participated in community governance. Our HOA had become a model for fair and respectful living, inspiring other neighborhoods facing similar struggles. One evening, my phone rang. It was a stranger named Lucas from another subdivision across town. He hesitated slightly before speaking nervously. "Mr. Thompson, we've heard about how your neighborhood overcame an abusive HOA president. We're struggling with the same issue here. Could you help us?" I smiled, understanding completely. "Of course, Lucas. Let's talk." Soon, I found myself regularly advising other communities, sharing strategies, and encouraging neighbors everywhere to stand united against injustice. Our story spread widely, empowering countless others to reclaim their dignity from petty tyrants masquerading as community leaders. Sarah joked lovingly, calling me the HOA whisperer. Yet, beneath her humor, lay genuine pride. We turned personal hardship into lasting community strength. Not just for ourselves, but countless others. One afternoon, visiting the playground we'd rebuilt with HOA fees, I overheard a young father explaining to his son why this neighborhood was special. "See these gardens, this playground? It happened because one brave neighbor stood up when no one else dared." I felt warmth fill my chest, recognizing how deeply our actions touched lives. That evening, watching families gather joyfully around picnic tables we'd installed where Karen used to take violation photos, I felt immense satisfaction. Not from revenge, but true justice. I never intended to lead a revolution against an abusive HOA president. But life's greatest battles often find us when we least expect them. The confrontation had been bitter, stressful, and exhausting, but worth every moment. Now, standing peacefully in a thriving community built on fairness and mutual respect, I realized something profound. The true power in confronting wrongdoing lies not merely in defeating it, but inspiring others toward meaningful change. Karen had sought dominance through fear, believing power came from control. She was wrong. True power emerges when ordinary people stand courageously together. And now, seeing my neighborhood stronger and happier than ever, I knew one thing for certain. We hadn't just reclaimed our homes, we'd rediscovered our community's heart. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.